Just walked a couple blocks. Get for breath. Okay. I blocked this guy on Instagram today because he said, well, you're an atheist. You're using the Bible in a way to influence young Christian women. And there's nothing, what he was saying is there's nothing immoral about that. But what he's saying is I don't know the Bible because I'm not a seminarian or a theologian. But what you got to understand is that 75% of the country are Christians. And I would say like 90% of them have never even read the Bible. They go to church on Sundays, they do the little ritualistic things, but most Christians, when they live their life, are not very biblical. Just like most atheists, they're just not living a biblical life. They believe in God and they think that's enough to get them into heaven. And that's a general consensus among Christians. As long as you believe in Jesus, when you die, you're gonna get to heaven. And being humble or doing God's work doesn't matter as long as you believe in God. And God is Jesus. So, if I'm an atheist and I'm spitting stuff from the Bible and I'm charismatic enough, what you got to understand is that I'm a Marxist. And I understand things from Marxist theory and anarchist theory and left progressive ways of thought. And me spitting stuff from the Bible is just as good as any preacher spitting stuff from the Bible because of praxis, and that's putting theory into practice. So that's the problem that Greta Thunberg saw was that, see, it's not about facts and figures and science with influencing people to do climate change. It's about praxis, or in other words, activism. That's more important than the science. You can science it out all you want, but if you can't influence people through boycotts and protests and speaking to people in a large forum, you're not going to influence them. If you're like a revolutionary and a leftist and you're trying to influence the poor, people who are not well educated, by using big words, you're not going to spark a revolution by using big words and fighting other leftists. You have to talk like them. You have to think like them. You say motherfucker a lot. Say words that are acerbic and profane. Even say faggot and nigger if it gets your point across. Because the poor don't understand verbose, pedantic language. You can't spark a revolution by being too scholarly. Because a revolution is about the proletariat. I have a Patreon account. I've earned $3 through it, but technically that does make me a worker, which makes me the proletariat. And the fact that I'm on social media, spitting out memes and sharing my thoughts and doing stand-up comedy and inspirational stuff, even if I'm not earning money, I'm working, which is a job. And it's a fun job, but it's something that I do because I'm not out there to make money, really. I would like you to put money in my Patreon account. But what I'm doing is stuff that I like, that I know will influence you, because I'm trying to be a spoken word artist and also a comedian and an inspirational speaker. I'm not going to get anywhere by looking up a bunch of words in the thesaurus to influence the poor. The poor are not well educated and they haven't spent most of their time on the computer. Most of the poor people that I've met are either out partying with their friends, or they're working their asses off, or they're just like sitting around, listening to music, probably doing stuff that I do too. But a lot of times, you as a academic or an intellectual forget that people that cuss all the time and use profanity are some of the smartest motherfuckers you're gonna meet. Just because somebody has a lot of words for a lot of other words and is a walking thesaurus doesn't mean that they're smarter than a walking urban dictionary. Sometimes the walking urban dictionaries are smarter than the walking thesaurusi. I mean, I don't know how many times I can say it. You cannot influence the poor to start a proletariat revolution against the rich and the middle class, or to rise up in any sort of context by being a fucking wordy bastard. So, if you really want to influence the world, especially if you want to influence the United States, you have to be able to influence the majority of people. And the majority of people in the United States, 75% of them, whether they read the Bible or not, are Christians. So if you can influence the Christians by saying that there is 120 verses in the Bible that speak against greed, the worship of money, and love of material things, 120 verses in the Bible against greed. You could say, well, the most Christian thing you can do is to vote for Bernie Sanders. There's also 100 verses in the Bible against gossip and slander and lying and aggravating people and harassing people. 100 verses in the Bible say don't spread rumors about people. And if you're somebody that is against harassment and spreading rumors, the most Christian thing you can do is to vote for Bernie Sanders. So if I drop a couple verses, maybe there's 4 or 5 verses in the Bible that I think that are interesting about older people, especially a couple of them about older men specifically, and saying that people with gray hair, especially men with gray hair, are righteous. Proverbs 16:31. And God favors righteousness. Psalms 33:5. Even if I'm an atheist, even if I am not a seminarian, most Christians don't read the Bible. But I do, and I'm an atheist. So my words are just as good as a theologian. You not understanding that makes it your problem. It's not always about facts, figures, and science. It's about activism and praxis.